All right, so let's talk about another tip that I do too a lot of times, and I hear a lot of people say, but when we cast that, it just goes straight to the bottom. And when we reel it, it's reeling too fast. You don't really have enough control over it, casting it up to the bank. It wants to sink down to the bottom pretty quick. 16th ounce, 8th ounce jigs, they're going to fall to the bottom pretty quick. And if you're fishing for spawning crappie and you're casting up to the bank or something like that, or those fish are really shallow and you want that jig down to like 10, 12 inches, a little bit over a foot, something like that, and you don't have control over how deep it's going to go, that's where we're going to talk about these old school slip floats. I use these a lot, especially during spawning season when the crappie are up shallow and you're going to be working a whole bank full of you're at Truman and the whole bank is just loaded with tree stumps, and they're shallow, but that jig is not going to stay in the strike zone for too long when you're casting it up there on that bank. So the way we solve that is we use, first of all, we have got the 5'8" medium light action outlaw crappie rod. I absolutely love this for this technique. It's got just enough stiffness in it to where I can whip a small bobber and a small jig pretty close to the bank with a pretty easy cast. And then I'll set the depth on accordingly on how deep they are. That'll slide all the way up to that bobber stop. It'll hit like that. And then as I'm pulling it back, as I'm reeling back, that jig's also moving. It's giving it a little more action. And I'm just reeling, twitching, reeling, and twitching. This in the springtime is a deadly combination. And like I said, if they're up really shallow, depending on how you move that bobber stop, if I want it only to go 3 or 4 inches deep, I move it up, and there we are. And then I can throw it out there beside a stump, and I can just let it sit there at the right depth that I want it at. This is absolutely one of my most favorite techniques. And don't be afraid to try this in the wintertime. You'd be surprised how many crappie get up shallow on the bank in the wintertime, or how far up in the water column they will move. You'll start seeing a lot of these. A lot of live scope guys are using these now, realizing it's easier and safer to use this to keep from spooking fish off schools. So go to Bass Pro Shop, get you a pack of bobber stops, get you some slip floats. They're cheap. I think I got a pack of these. I think there was like 10 of them in a pack for somewhere around $5. I might have bought them in a bulk bag with like 25 of them, I think, off their website. Deadly combination in the springtime, early spring. Have you ever tried this combination? Does it work? What do you think about it? Let me know in the comments. Definitely way overlooked sometimes. Those slip float and a crappie jig. You can also do this with regular peg floats, and you can peg it down and set it and do the exact same thing. I like the slip floats because it lets me easily adjust the depth, and I don't have that big whip action going on with the bobber over my head and the jig flying. Excellent combination here, and I can't believe I don't see a lot more people using this than what they do. Always, I have tons of these in my boat, tons of little tie-on slips. I ain't gonna do a video on how I do that. There's a million videos on how to put on a slip float. Just match your float to the size of your jig head. These are like, I think they were like 2-inch long, and it didn't really give a size, but it holds up a 16th and an 1/8 ounce jig just absolutely perfectly. I try to let it sink somewhere right where the color changes, and if you can see the red better, flip it over. Put the red sticking up. If you see the yellow better, stick the yellow sticking up. And I think you can get these in black, white. You can get them in just about every color. So find the one that helps your eyes see that, because you might be 45, 30, 40 feet from the bank. Get one that you can see real good. And sometimes it seems like the darker colors. This is the one my son uses. I usually have mine flipped over upside down on the other side where the red's facing up. And then that way me and him kind of compete. The yellow and the red bobber coming back. Who's going to get the first fish? But there's my technique on slip floating, especially springtime crappie. Don't overlook it in the wintertime. You'd be surprised how shallow up some of those crappie get on those trees, even clear out in the middle of the lake where the lake's 15, 20 foot deep. You'd be surprised they're not always as deep as what you think. Let me know what you think about this, and let me know if this combo will work, or if you've used this, or if you've got a better way to do this than I do. Like, share, subscribe. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.